I'll give you an example. Recently, there was this fully AI generated Coca-Cola commercial that came out like a couple of days ago for Christmas. And everybody was, you know, I understand. I'm also in awe of what the tool can do by itself and how much faster and how much cheaper and everything that it signifies for our industry. So I get that. However, the output was like, what? Like, again, Santa Claus and the truck, and then it moves through the scenery that we've seen a million times, and the squirrels come to play, and people are happy, and everybody looks like they came from Terminator, like this beautiful skin. Like, I was like, is it making the things that we could do better or just faster and cheaper and everything? And I know, again, there's a lot of value in making it faster, cheaper. That's where the innovation is, and maybe that's what's going to change the world. However, I like when it does it a lot better too. So my question is, because Coca-Cola now is using AI to generate a completely fairy tale end, couldn't it have done it in a way that we've never seen before, or more excitingly, or more uniquely?
On today's show, we have a special guest. He has been the creative leader to the world's top creative agencies across 4 continents for 25 years, having amassed over 46 international awards and founded 3 global creative agencies. After developing one of the world's only agile methods applied to communication and applied that successfully onto some of the largest global brands in the world, including Spotify, Motorola, and KFC, André has recently moved to Tokyo and plans to cause a little disruption there. André, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, guys. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Would you like to just give a brief introduction of who you are and what you've been doing recently?
I think you kind of just did of my whole career. So let me see. I think most recently, for the last 4 years, I've been working with a company called Kubo, and that has recently ended. But for all of these 4 years, what I essentially did was to take this agile methodology that I developed, and I've applied that to a lot of their very interesting global Fortune 500 clients around the world. And we did sprints, in every continent, met a bunch of amazing creative talent and clients as well. And then one of my biggest dreams was to move to Japan. And then I finally said, I have nothing to do in Japan. Japan doesn't want me, but I want it. So I'm going to go and see what happens. So this is what's going on right now.
That's really nice. I know that it's super hard to get a visa in Japan, isn't it?
Yes, yes. There is a trick for that as well. I think this is something that we've learned through Kubo. We had an employee who was from Egypt, but she lived in Germany. And in order to work with her, she said, I still need like to get a visa and work in Germany. So you can hire a company who hires your employee for you on your behalf. So there is that thing. It's totally legal and everything. So we've discovered that. And now the way that I'm going to Japan is through the same company. So Kubo pays that company who pays me. So therefore, I can get a work visa. It's a bit of a workaround. It costs money. It's not ideal, but for now, it's okay.
And are already in Japan or in Tokyo? Are you planning to move soon?
Yeah, so the work visa recently came through. I spent 6 months of this year in Tokyo, but as a tourist essentially. So I went in for 3 months, left, went in again, and then once you've done this twice, then you can no longer come as a tourist. So I've done that for half a year, and then I left, worked on this work visa situation, and it finally came through already. I could have been in Japan right now, but I decided to just be in Thailand for now because it's getting really cold in Japan, and Thailand is lovely. So I'm in Bangkok right now.
Yeah, I have seen that you have worked in many different countries and different cultures and lifestyles. And what were your roles in these different countries? And which countries have you lived and worked?
Oh man, it's it's been such a long path. I think I started working in Brazil, and then when I left Brazil, I started an assistant art director. So always been on the visual side of things, and I started working in digital when it was just starting in Brazil. I think it was '97 for McCann Erickson in São Paulo. After that, once I got like some interesting work in my portfolio, I thought maybe I can go abroad. And I already spoke English, so I knew that it wouldn't be a huge jump to get used to working abroad, I thought. And then I went to Canada. After Canada, I went to Holland. I think after Holland, I went to Sweden, then Japan. Then I came back to Brazil. It's been quite a lot of countries, but essentially, I think I've spent the most time in a few different instances in Holland out of all these years. Yep.
So, and I have lived in Sweden for 3 years. I just came back to Brazil, so I kind of relate with your.
Oh, no way.
your
Where did you live? In Stockholm?
I, I live in Lund for 2 years to do a master's degree.
Oh, of course. It's a
And
big university town, right?
yeah, it's super nice. And then after that, I moved to Uppsala. There's the second biggest university too. So
Oh, that as
this,
well. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But then I was working there for a while. It was a good experience.
Pratar du lite svenska?
Lite svenska.
I forgot. I also lived in Sweden for a while, but forgot.
Yeah. Well, which city have you lived there?
I was in Stockholm. I used to work for what was at the time a very well respected small agency called Farfar. That agency
Uh,
at the time was like perhaps top three most creative agencies in the world by all of the award standards and stuff like that. So it was a magical time to be in Sweden,
yeah.
and I love my time there. Yep.
That's cool. That's cool. And I
It's a
was,
great country.
yeah, yeah. It's a nice country to live. And talking about your experience like worldwide in worldwide environments, what were the challenges that you faced like in different cultures, and how did you uh, pass through that? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest differences I would say from Brazil, you guys have probably felt the same, is the level of maybe, I don't know if professionalism is the word, but just structure and organization. I remember like receiving briefs that were very well done, and we as a team would have enough time to work through them. And even the timelines, I mean, I was used to at the beginning of my career was like, okay, we need this for 3 days from now, right, or whatever, the weekend. And then when I moved to Canada, that was my first impression of the new international world. It was like, here's the brief. Tomorrow we're going to join to have a debriefing session to see if you have any questions. And then you're going to have a month to work. I was like, what? So all of that was I was very surprised by all of it, and I loved it. So I think also the respect for us, the workers, and what we brought to the table, our skill set. I think Brazil, you used to just making things happen with very little. You have very little, few tools and time. You just make it happen, and people count on that. And I think abroad, they people like us, we have the chance to speak up and say, I don't know about this. I'm not comfortable with that. I need this in order to get to that. So they arrange that. They do their best to get you that so that you can succeed. And I felt that was super respectful. And I grew accustomed to that, right? When I went back to Brazil, I was like, my God, this is chaos. So I like that. That was the biggest surprise, I think.
Yeah, I mean, things like when I moved to Denmark as well, I just noticed that I had to slow down a lot because I was like in a completely different pace. Because in Brazil, you're like producing like a horse.
Yeah, that's
It's
true. That's true.
insane. Like you just work. And then there's, especially in advertising, you don't have weekends. It's like crazy. And here, like the work-life balance is
That's
insane,
true.
especially in Scandinavia, I guess. So people at the agency, they would just not, very, very rarely I've seen in many years people working on weekends here. Very
Yeah,
rarely.
but
In advertising, which
Denmark,
for me was like, what?
Denmark is like it's one of the most laid back, uh, richest laid back country in the world. I think there is, at least my experience. I've met a few agency owners, and I've had a little bit of interaction with Denmark. And in maybe I'm generalizing, maybe this is all wrong. Tell me what you guys think. But Sweden is a little bit it's quite competitive. Although work-life balance also important and stuff, but they want to make a mark in the world. They want to go international. They want to be rich. They want things. I felt like the Danes were like, we're happy. Like we'll go home at 4, and our kids are happy. They're biking to school. We don't want anything else, right? It's like there's a little less ambition. So yeah, I remember I was the one pushing like the Danish, like, come on guys, we got to do this, we got to win that. And they're like, oh, why? But why, right? So there's that in Denmark, which I felt, my God, maybe I'm too accelerated. It's that's the way it should be, like slowly and surely.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. It's
Yeah.
it's 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 a pretty much like that. They are just they're pretty chill, and then they are very respectful of their family outside and their life outside of work, basically. So they're really, nobody's gonna judge you if you at 3:30 you leave to just get your kids in school or this kind of stuff, because everybody's used to that.
True.
And there's something here that shapes the culture that it's called the entalone, which is like some sort of non-spoken rule. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that basically is that it's frowned upon if you stand
Oh,
out too
it's the
much.
lagom in Sweden.
So they,
Yeah, there's a word in Swedish as well. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
so you kind of want to be, you don't want to stand out too much. You basically standardization of the population, and then they kind of judge very hardly like people that stand out.
That's true.
But at the same time, I mean, it's the extremes, right? I think we just need to find that balance, because if you also don't stand out, you just disappear from the world scene as well, right?
Indeed.
But yeah, it's quite interesting. Do you want to say something, Matheus, in regards to this, or we should just move
No,
on?
just yeah, I totally related with what you talk about, and the deadlines are totally different. The planning, like, was the time span, and it's amazing and amazingly done in Sweden and in the Nordic countries. And I think that's the difference. That there's no clients calling you like, I need this for tomorrow. There's clients that
True.
want you to be first in the line. As in Brazil, it happens all the time. I feel that at
It's
least.
it's funny enough. Like I've gone around the world quite a bit, and I think that countries that have a lot of service attitude, like Japan, like the UAE, like Brazil, like the US, like every time there's a lot of service attitude, the vendors are supposed to answer the call no matter what, and it doesn't really matter what's up with your life or whatever. And then other countries, the same thing. Like go to Denmark and tell the waiter at the pizza joint, like, "Can you come here?" He's gonna say, "What do you mean? Like I'm the same as you. I'm busy. Chill. I'm gonna come to your table sometime, right?" So it's like it's the same in business. It's like don't don't push too hard, right? I'm not your vendor. I'm just like you, and I have my rights, and I also have bad mood. Yeah, it's a funny dichotomy. It's such a different culture, I think.
Yeah, I'm fascinated still. Even I've been here basically for 10 years, but I'm still pretty surprised with a few things. And here as well, if the shop is gonna close at 6, they kick you out. No matter if you're like you're gonna
Yeah.
buy or not, they're gonna kick you out 5 minutes before closing, and then come back
They don't care
tomorrow.
if you buy, even when the shop is fully open. You're like waiting in line for 10 hours. There's like one person seeing a line of people, and they don't care. It's like they feel this. It's like I just want to get the hell out of here at 3:30 and pick up my kids from school and goodbye. Right? Like everybody feels the same.
Exactly. But I love living here. I think it's a
It
great
is. It
place.
is.
But I want to get into the Jumpu, and I would love for you to just give a little bit of introduction to what is Jumpu and what were your thoughts when you decided to do
Yeah.
that?
Okay, so Jump is I think brand is an overstatement, but it's just like a fun thing that I thought of doing. Maybe when I started going to Japan more often, like every time I would go, I went to Japan many, many times as a tourist. And then I would always want to, because I'm so proud of the culture and everything, and I want to buy like something that says something in Japanese, right? And I realized that a lot of the souvenir clothing, T-shirts and stuff were kind of tacky. They usually are, right? Like if you go to Lisbon, it says like "I amo Lisboa," and it's like embroidered. It's like tacky. And being a designer, I always felt like, oh my God, that's horrible. And if you go a little bit higher on the, or I would mean a little bit lower on the techie scale, so it becomes like really minimalistic and stuff, then it's usually catering to the Japanese market. So it doesn't have like the Japanese words on it that I liked. So I felt I'm kind of in between. I want to get a souvenir from Japan that says something in Japanese, but not at the same time in a horrible font like Tokyo, comma, Japan. So I said, I'm going to do t-shirts I felt to begin with that have this characteristic of celebrating the Japanese calligraphy and like everything that I think is just so beautiful visually with the Japanese language. I want to make it bold and stuff, but still minimalistic, just a few colors and hopefully not tacky. So Jump came from that thought. Like I wanted to make t-shirts that I think I would wear because I quite like Japan, and I think that it's a niche, right? It's for people who also like Japan and maybe have been studying Japanese or like the culture, anime, or whatever. I felt like they might want to also have T-shirts like that, so that's how it started.
I've seen it, and they're beautiful. I really like the aesthetics, and I've recently visited Japan for the first time in
Uh
March,
huh.
and I just fell in love. I want to. I'm dreaming of coming
I
back.
know it has
But
that power, doesn't it?
yeah, it's such a fantastic country. I was and the food. Oh my god, I've always been fascinated by Japanese food, but like when you experience that in there, with their obsession,
Yeah,
right? Because they're really obsessed with everything that they do. You just have tastes that you've never experienced before, and
sure.
I was blown away. I loved it, and I can't wait to come back.
Absolutely, yeah. Japan. All right, so you are a target for my T-shirts, perhaps. Did you
Yes,
find
I am.
any interest? Because you can buy like the yukata, which is the kind of like the summer kimono. And so there's a few things you can buy that are kind of original and nice. But if you want to buy with written kanji and like or any of the alphabets, it's a bit tacky. Did you find that?
You can find it. I had to because I also wanted, like, to be honest. I think you're targeting people that are really passionate about Japan, but couldn't find what you're basically creating,
Nice,
which is you basically as well, right? So
exactly.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy some shirts from you because I really like the designs,
Thank
and
you.
I try to find something like that, but I couldn't.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Um,
Thank you so much. I'm flattered.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's a pretty cool initiative. But we also want to know a little bit more on how it was to do that using
Yeah.
AI.
So,
Um,
yeah, please.
yeah, just if you can give us just a brief intro how you decided to use AI to launch this brand or this T-shirt initiative that you
Yeah.
created,
So,
and then we can just dive a little bit more deeper into the tech and etc.
yeah, absolutely. I think because I had a lot of time in my hands when I started with this idea of Jumpu, I felt like I'm gonna try to kill two birds with one stone, which is to start this thing, which is gonna be fun. It's probably not gonna give me any money, but it's gonna be fun to do. And it's been on my mind for a while, so I just wanted to take it out because I had the time. And there's just so much talk about AI versus creativity. I knew a little bit, of course. I've played with Midjourney and I use ChatGPT every day. But I thought, what else? Like, how much further can I push? Being someone who doesn't know anything about it, essentially, right? So I was just curious to try to merge these two things. Can I create this faster, better, easier? if I use AI through the whole creative process. So this was the thinking, and then I had to, all of the information is open online, so you just read a few things, and there's a lot of people who were starting to post, especially on LinkedIn. A lot of people that I follow saying this film was done with this tool plus this tool plus this tool, and then I started to understand a little bit what each tool did, and I said, okay, it's my time to try it out.
How is it for you, the process, like to create a minimalistic style? Because it's kind of hard to make the AI goes through the way that to the pathway that you want.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's indeed. I think this project was 50 was equal parts me doing what I know to do as a designer, and then the intelligent machine doing the things that it knows to do, right? So, for instance, I'm creating series, right? So one series was Japanese sentences. The next series was Japanese prefecture symbols. The third one is going to be neighborhoods in Tokyo. So I'm aiming to do like different series through the times. So that was my decision. Then, when it comes to like even selecting the sentences, I said, because I've been learning Japanese, I know two or three sentences that people fall in love with, and they talk, but they say it all the time, and it's kind of funny. And then, obviously, I went into ChatGPT and I said, the sentences like this are amusing, and Japanese people use it a lot. What other sentences could it be, right? So you'll see that all the way through the process, there was a little bit of help from that. So once I got these sentences, it's a little bit of this play between machine and human. So I got everything that ChatGPT had to say. Of course, I edited it. I kept playing with it until I think I was satisfied. Then I had to move it through a human. So I put it through my Japanese teacher. And I said, Sensei, what do you think of those? And he's like, oh no, this is shit. This is nice. This is this. Nobody says this. So obviously you have someone kind of correcting the machine, right? And then we came to the conclusion that these were the ones that we wanted to use. And then I went into Photoshop and so forth. Like I can explain to you like the step by step, but I think that there was a bit of that play between AI and then making my own decisions on things and having to deal with the consequences, right? Like when the machine does its own thing, maybe you can play with it and you're like, oh, damn it, it doesn't do exactly what I want to do. But when it's you doing it, then there's that anxiety like, am I doing it right? I mean, now I've done exactly what I want to do. Is it going to be successful? Is this right? So I don't know, right? So you have to press the button and go.
But in terms of Mid-Journey, for example, it at least I've been using Mid-Journey for quite a while. I was one of the beta testers to test the browser interface instead of Discord, which was terrible.
Right.
Um, but in my experiences, it's really hard to get something minimalistic. For some weird reason, AIs really like to just throw everything all in. So let's say you ask for
Yeah,
a shelf with some books, it will just give you like the most bloated shelf
true.
with the most number of books you can possibly imagine that fits in there. So what did you have did you have to hack it somehow to make it a bit more minimalistic, or you managed to achieve that?
Yeah.
What was
So
the
for
secrets to
everything
get
that
it to?
related to like the way the t-shirts look like, which is just like the print on the t-shirt, that was just done through Photoshop and mocking things up and stuff, right? So um, but then I had this idea of saying, I now I need to, in order to make it like more human-like and people feel attracted to it, I need to put it on a model. And then I thought it would be an interesting idea to create like characters that are, typical Japanese, but without the trademarks, right? So I wasn't going to get directly Hello Kitty and Ultra 7. So I wanted to do characters that looked kind of like that. And there's in the pantheon of Japanese characters, there's just so much to choose from like old folk tales and gods and devils and robots. So now I need to give some credit to a great friend of mine called Vitor Saatchi, who's a fantastic designer and creative director, and he is a Midjourney god. And I said, Victor, can you create some characters for me with these qualities and stuff? And so he did. And he created some beautiful ones, and I took those. And then I needed to create others after that. And I'm no mid-journey whiz. So he gave me about 70% of what I wanted, and then I needed to create more. The way that I hacked mid-journey to give me very minimalist looking characters was to start from a base picture. So I just took a picture from a model that was wearing a black or a white t-shirt, and I put it as a base. And then I described my prompt on top of it, saying, the face of a samurai or whatever. And but it is indeed, as you mentioned, I think for people who know it very well, it's easier to go around the prompts and stuff. But for me, it was a lot of trial and error. Two things that were difficult. Um, if you start playing too much with the idea of a samurai from the Edo period with and then it kills the t-shirt, it starts to create like strange looking t-shirts in order to fulfill the brief. And if you keep it very stable, and if you say, I need a crew neck black t-shirt with short sleeves, so that you don't start pasting things on t-shirts that look nothing like yours, and then it keeps like it cannot imagine the faces all that unique. So I had to play a lot with these two things in order to get to something that felt like the t-shirt is stable. It is a crew neck t-shirt stuff. But having said that, a lot of the characters that Victor created for me, a few of them, the t-shirts were not really like crew neck t-shirts like these. They were strange looking t-shirts. And I said, okay, it's fine. This is just conceptual. So I'm gonna use them as well. So I made a mix between things that looked very much like a t-shirt and things that were more like capes and things that looked like even more like a rubbery looking t-shirt. So it was quite difficult to get the gist for it. But I think this was the concept. Like if people see a very fast moving video, they probably will not pay attention to a lot of the details. One of them is the quality of the t-shirt. The second one is when I pasted all of the writings in kanji and Japanese characters on the t-shirt, and the character moved, it broke all of the characters, but it's for like a split second, so you cannot really tell. So there's a lot of defects or mistakes along the thing. But because it's a video, I said, okay, fine. At least, hopefully, it'll make people feel excited enough to go check it out. Once they go check it out, then they're going to look at images of the T-shirt to feel assured that it is like high quality and blah blah blah. So this was the thinking.
Let me just unpack a little bit of what you just said. So there's two instances where you use AI basically,
Yeah.
right? So it was also to help conceptualize the designs, correct? And also for the campaign, right?
Yeah, so conceptualize the design. It's a little bit of what I explained, like which sentences should I use and stuff. So I played a little bit with ChatGPT. Once it went to the second series, which was the Japanese prefectures, like those big symbols, I just looked at a huge list and I said, I like those nine, the end, right? So there was nothing there. So I think to create the series, it's very much like what's in my head, and I just dump it into visuals and I place it and I just place it on a t-shirt, the end. Once it came to creating the video, then it's like a lot of AI, like from making the scenes for the video to animating the video to putting the sound on the video. All of that was with the help of different AI software. Yeah.
Which tools have you used? Like Runaway and Suno, and just guessing, or is it?
Yes. So I used, funny enough, I've used something called Kling as well for visualizing, for creating some images, because it gave me some interesting images. So I tried Midjourney. I was playing around with the prompt a lot, and then I used Kling as well, and it gave me some interesting options, and I used them. I think the samurai that I have there and the octopus looking thing came from Kling. So these days, I mean, even Runway creates images, right? So it depends which software you most used to working with, I suppose. So I used a few of those for images. Then, very recently, I realized, or it just came out, that you can, I think this was Runway, correct, Runway ML, that you can put one frame, like the beginning frame and the final frame, and it tweens in between, right? So as I was playing with like this character, quarter profile, fully frontal, back, it gave me a few options. I said, what will happen if I put these two options, front and back, or slightly on the side, and then fully, fully straight onto the camera? Will it create like the tween motion in between? And it did. So this is pretty cool. So I used Runway for all of the movements, and I tried to keep the movements um, tight, like just a little bit of zoom out, a little bit of rotation, because I felt like if I wanted to be too ambitious and create like the character is jumping up and down and twisting, it would break all of the characters on the t-shirt, and it was gonna look kind of nuts because there's just a few things on the screen. It's just like face t-shirt. If it was a huge background with a lot of elements, the eye cannot notice a lot of the crazy things that it builds in order to tween. But if it's just like a one element, you see the mistakes, right? And I wanted to keep it minimal. Yeah.
Was it too hard to find the same T-shirt that you have like printed out, like to make it on Midjourney or in these AI tools? Like,
Yes, yes, you'll see that all of the Japanese looking characters, they are wearing like a totally different t-shirt. One is like a crew
yeah,
neck with a very thin neck border. The other one is longer. The other one doesn't have any. One sits up here, the other one sits down here, and so there's even like a canoe kind of cut on one of them with the cape. So that was messy. I tried to then, once I created so what I did was first I created the character with like a solid black or white t-shirt, and then I went back into Photoshop and I applied my design onto it. As I did that, sometimes I tried to correct the crew neck and so there was a little bit of playing around. And also, I mean, we're very lucky that in Photoshop these days, there's just so much with generative fillings and stuff that you can say, just this space, like, give me something else. And sometimes it would do, like, I remember that I had something that it was like a very straight neck like this. And I just selected the sides of it and I said, go. And then it actually created like a plunk, like a very round crew neck. And I was like, oh, perfect. It knows what I want. I didn't even prompt anything. So I think there's even if you know nothing like me, if you go through trial and error and if you have patience to learn the tools a little bit and do many times, you will get it.
It's funny with Photoshop because in my old days, right, I would have to patch it up with the
Oh, yeah.
Band-Aid too, like so it keeps the light and stuff. And it's just now to just circle around and just tell the generative AI to fill that gap or to erase that is
It's
ridiculously
brilliant.
fast.
That's true. That's true. I never again use
And
like the
just
clone tool to like delete things and like clone from here over there. I'm like, forget this. Just like circle and say boom, and then it knows that you probably don't want that strange thing in the middle. You want it like the it really is scary. I mean, we'll talk about what the implications of the tools are for creatives and everything else. But I approach it with a mix of fear and amazement.
and it's also for me it's also crazy the in Photoshop that I don't know if I think no, this is definitely AI. Before you also have to manually cut somebody's if you want to separate a person from the background, you have to manually
Yeah.
cut that. But nowadays you just go and select subject and it poof cuts it, including the
Yeah,
hair. It's just crazy how these
that's
things
true.
evolve.
I mean, I try to do it sometimes directly in Photoshop, just like select, I think it's called select subject or something like that. And it does it perfectly when the image has a clear subject and everything else is bokeh in the back or blurry. When it doesn't, then it goes insane. And then you still have, so I feel like if you know the tool, AI will advance your life. It'll make you do the things you really want to do so much faster, but it still relies on you to do the finishing touches so that it's perfect. If you don't know the tool, you'll end up with something that is subpar, I think.
I think there's a lot of the discussion, especially in the creative industries, about AI replacing creatives and stuff. But I think I hear this repetitively from different people, and I would like to get your perspective on it. Is that curation might be the biggest differentiator from if you basically you need to have taste and understand what is good to be able
Yeah,
to use AI properly, because anybody can generate anything, but that doesn't mean it's good.
that's true.
What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think that we are in a phase where we're very enamored by the technology and the tools. Just because we can do things, we're like, oh, I'll give you an example. Recently, and I do understand the value of it, but there was this fully AI generated Coca-Cola commercial that came out like a couple of days ago for Christmas, and everybody was I understand. I'm also in awe of what the tool can do by itself and how much faster and how much cheaper and everything that it signifies for our industry. So I get that. However, the output was like, what? Like again, Santa Claus and the truck, and then it moves through the scenery that we've seen a million times, and the squirrels come to play, and people are happy, and everybody looks like they came from Terminator, like this beautiful skin. Like I was like, is it making it is it making the things that we could do better or just faster and cheaper and everything? And I know again, there's a lot of value in making it faster, cheaper. That's where the innovation is, and maybe that's what's going to change the world. However, I like when it does it a lot better too. So my question is, because Coca-Cola now is using AI to generate a completely fairy tale end, couldn't have couldn't it have done it in a way that we've never seen before, or more excitingly, or more uniquely? No, it did exactly the same way it always does. What's the value of that?
Yeah, totally. I think the art is not replaceable. Like we can replicate the past, but only the artist can envision the future, isn't it? Like so.
Yeah.
Uh,
You still need like a great director. You still need like a great idea behind it. You need a great script. You need a great eye for arriving at exactly what you envision as a director, as an artist. So, and you cannot skip that. And again, there is a lot of value in saying create a hero, and then it'll give you things that you could never imagine. So you can feed off of the machine and get even better. But I I I think that in this early phase that we're just enamored by it, we are creating iterative things. And some people are creating very exciting, incredible worlds that you could have never created before. So kudos to them.
We spoke in a couple of episodes back to the creative the owner and the creative director from an animation studio, and then he was also mentioning that uh, first he mentions that when you look into the terms of service of Mid Journey, you scare every client that wants to work with that, because basically you don't own anything that you created in there, so you cannot just take that and use it. You have to do, you can use that as a base, but maybe you need to evolve and create something out of that, so you can have the rights to use it, right? And I guess it's just interesting to see how I think we also, at the same time as we know a lot, we don't know much.
Yeah, yeah. I think even if you look at the legal aspect, which you're mentioning, like who owns the creative that comes out of Midjourney or One Runway or whatever, and also what is it based? What is it being trained on? It's being trained on copyrighted material from artists from around the world who get not even a cent from it, right? So, I think we're entering a very interesting new era where it's disrupting everything, and yeah, a lot of things will still change. A lot of things are still to be decided and put into law, and we'll see where that all ends. But it's a bit like the internet back when I started, right? Like nobody knew anything. We were doing just we were just doing things just for the fun of doing it. I remember creating websites for like pharma companies that had nothing to do with anything they needed at the time. Like they were just excited about having a website, and nobody would go to the website, and like, but still they wanted because it signified we are forward looking and we're technological. So I think a lot of clients, a lot of brands are jumping on that bandwagon and saying we cannot be left behind. So we also need to do. And until we really understand how to do, where it adds value, and how it fits into the whole system, I think it's going to take quite a bit of time. But I mean, no question that it's going to change everything, including all of our jobs.
So you believe that AI is here to stay and it's going to disrupt, or it's going to become a staple in brand creation, and it's going to be more used more as a tool for prototype and exploration. Or yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be a great question. I think it is. I think the the leap that we're going through right now is unthinkable. I think we're going to end up with, did cinema kill the theater? No. But for every 1,000 cinema screens in the world, there's one theater. So people still want to go to the theater, but they'd rather watch a movie, either at home or at the cinema. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's going to kill the need for artists that do things by hand and, use the media the way that they've been using up to like 2 years ago. But they're going to be severely impacted to the point that I think 99% of them will be out of a job, or they will have to change what they do, right? I mean, what's the use? I'll give you an example. I used to bring in for my sprints a sketch artist. So he would be with us, with the group, as we would brainstorm and say, okay, we end up with this. Let's do a storyboard with this. Now you can just, stabilize the style on Midjourney and say, now I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that. And you can create all of these screens with someone who just can do the prompts. So it's no longer that artist that has the job. Now it's someone who can do the prompt. So I don't think that machines will do everything. I think humans will still do, but what we used to do will be disrupted. You will have to learn new skills, and I wouldn't put it past me the fact that maybe an illustrator, in order to continue being an illustrator, he will need to become great at typing as opposed to picking up a pen, So I don't know. This is all too insane. I don't know.
Do you usually?
And these things are also.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Do you use? You mentioned that you have like someone to prompt now. Do you usually use someone or use the tools in your daily basis, like in the at Kubo, or do you just give a random example?
Yeah. So Kubo, when Kubo was still, when I was still at Kubo, which was a couple of months ago, and maybe 6 months ago, this whole thing it wasn't at the stage where it is today. Now you can like stabilize the style, you can stabilize even camera and just play with camera angles and zoom out and zoom in. So there was a lot of things that were added to Midjourney and others that makes this whole trajectory a little more expected. So you can kind of, that you're not going to be fighting against the prompt for like hours. So up until the last time I've done sprints, I would still count on the human to come because I knew I could rely on him. And because it's a sprint, because you cannot miss any turn, because we only have 8 hours, I decided to continue with what I knew. Now, 6 months later, I would go after someone who could really do, maybe use prompting. And I think he would be able to arrive at even like the definition, like the fidelity of what a sketch artist can get to in a couple of hours. He will do like one good frame every 2 hours. Maybe, needs to color. If you need color, then it takes long. So I think I would try to, these days, I would definitely try to go with someone who can create a style using prompts. And maybe I would get to something that was even more insanely. Nowadays, I think that what I would do is to definitely go after someone who would use prompts, would know how to do the prompts really well. And I think now I would be my level of certainty that he would be able to deliver uh, on time with the right style is super high. I would do it. Yeah.
So how do you envision like in the future the use of AI? You talked a little bit about it, but how do you see like do you see more applications in your databases in your work? You mentioned a bit, but
Yeah, I think that there's I was trying to think of this the other day. I think that in my field of advertising, I think you can use it in three ways. One is the PR aspect of it. It's a bit gimmicky to say, "Oh, Coca-Cola did its first of TVC using fully using AI." Do you get to a better thing? It's debatable. I don't think so far. But yet, everybody wants to know, and it fulfills the role. So there's a lot of things you can do. Oh, for the first time, an AI this, an AI that, a computer this, an artificial intelligence that. The media is dying to talk about this. So you can be very smart and piggyback on that. That's one. The second thing is, how much AI are we going to use from the door in? The client might not even see it, but how can it make our lives easier, more productive? We can arrive at the best solutions faster, better, etc. So you can do a million ways. You can make it help you brainstorm. You can make it help you select the best ideas. Even test with personas if you know how to do it. Like assume that you are a middle-aged woman from the Midwest USA who had 3.2 kids, and so you can. There's just so much in the process of creativity that you can get AI to help you with, visualize whatever you want to do. But that's just from the door in. The client doesn't even know you're using it, right? And the third thing is through production, is to say this thing was fully built in AI because in advertising you need a lot of assets. And you can nowadays build a lot of these assets using AI, maybe with a bit of a mix of it will do the bulk of the work and then you have to adjust and so forth. I don't know how that plays out yet in like UX, UI, and building products. I don't think it's quite there yet, but it will. But in the space of uh, video and cinematography and all of that, it's moving so fast and it's getting to things that are so good that I think it's going to be a bit of like theater versus cinema. I think very quickly it's going to kill everything. Because I think with me, like, if you can get a pretty decent video quality, cinema quality material for 30 seconds, paying, I don't know, 20,000 euros to do it really well using AI and adjusting and stuff like that and correcting color, whatever it is, why would you pay a million? Right? So that the conversation is not that AI is going to save you 20%. The question is AI is going to cost you 1/100th of what you used to spend. So it's just so preposterously impossible to avoid that I think the industry is going to very quickly move to pretty much all AI. I think.
And it's, when you talk about the cost, right, the cost reduction, or it also, in a certain way, it's about democratization as well, because some people that didn't have 1 million to use in a production of a film might have 20,000 to use it.
True.
And then all of a sudden these people are also going to enter the market somehow. So there's two ways, right, to see it as well. So it's yeah, it's
Yep.
when we started this podcast, it's been a crazy journey of learning of how people in different ways are using, and different companies are using AI, and we were just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're at the beginning of this ascending curve, and we can even know how fast it curves up and where it's going to go. And if machines are going to take over in 10 years and we're going to be their slaves and it's going to be real Terminator, I really think that this can go a lot of different ways. I hope to be optimistic, but I don't know. I think there's just so much disruption in the future. I think it's going to disrupt everything, the stock market. Like I think it's beyond comprehension. It's the same thing that social media did. I mean, when it was the 50s, we were thinking the future is about flying cars and eating a pill that's going to get you through the day. None of that happened. But all of a sudden, there is this thing called the internet. And like we could even fathom what it meant, right? And the disruption you're saying, like, people who would put out content 20 years ago would be journalists and anchor people, and you would have to go through university to speak in front of the I mean, forget this now. Like a 12-year-old kid with a camera has 1 million followers, and he doesn't need any of that. So I think the future of audiovisual production is going to suffer the same fate.
No, I totally agree. And then this democratization is amazing. Like as you mentioned, like I think the revolution of an internet is like kind of the same as it happened with AI right now. So we're gonna see something. I'm really excited, but at the same time a little bit afraid of the future. But it's interesting. It's interesting to live in this moment, to see all these tools popping up,
Yeah,
and I'm yeah.
I'm afraid for my job too. I'm like, where am I going to go, right? I mean, I didn't make enough money to say, oh, thankfully I can retire now that the world has gone to this. I have to still think like, what can I become? Like, what's the role of a creative director in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Like, do I have to like what do I have to do to be still be relevant? And so, big questions for all of us, I think.
Yeah, but we, as Danny talked, like we spoke with many people, and what we see is like your role is not gonna disappear. You know, you know so much, and you know how to do stuff. You know that people don't, even though like amateurs cannot do the same work as you are doing. For example,
True.
I I don't believe that an amateur can do the t-shirts that you are doing. You know, like it's a high quality
Thank you.
design, is a high quality thing. So you just can do that because you have your background, you know. So
Man, but is it? I don't know. Like you could say the same. Like the level of interest. Because remember when we used to look at Dolly, like whatever 2 years
yeah,
ago or three, we would say, the machine is never going to be able to put like the proper head with the proper collar because it's just it's pulling parts from everywhere. Now you see the level of detail of like how perfect everything is. So I'm not so sure that a prompt will not be able to do the things that I do better. If it does, I hope that I will be able to have moved to a safer space myself. We'll see.
I think it's also, at least this is what we've been preaching since we started this as well. Just, learn these tools, learn
Yeah,
how the technology is evolving, because if it's, you will be a bit more prepared to what's coming if you know where the status quo is,
yeah,
right? With these tools, even though it's quite overwhelming at the moment, because like I think every day there's like 100 different tools coming out. You cannot possibly
indeed.
or humanly possibly look into all of that. But I mean, some of the outliers,
Yeah,
and the biggest ones are reliable. At least I think ChatGPT and Midjourney reached like a level of maturity, at least for generative images and also generative text, that that puts them into some sort of reliable use
yeah,
cases. But still, anything can happen, and another tool can come and disrupt everything.
yeah. It's true.
I think we're reaching the end, so I would like to finish up by asking you, what advice would you give to young creatives that are starting their careers today, considering that AI is here now? And yeah, what advice would you give to them?
Good question. I This is something maybe that hasn't changed. The advice that I always give people is specialize, specialize, specialize. Like you have to be a huge specialist in order to survive, I think. So I'll give you an example. Let's talk about the prompting, right? If you become the best, well, the best is difficult, but someone who is excellent at prompting in mid-journey in order to create rough sketches, then you can make a career for yourself doing that really well and sell yourself as such. If you become you can create a business out of it. You can create a business out of, instead of paying Kantar to do testing for your campaign, I've created like a shell on top of an LLM model that does extremely well testing if I'm a strategist. And then you become the guy that can come in and test everything for the big companies around the world. So I think you have to figure out something that you feel excited about and learn everything about that and become very good at that. Um, I think that the opposite path is a dead end, like doing a little bit of what I am doing right now, because I've been on this for 27 years. I've done a little bit of everything because I had to. And now, if you say the video that I've created for the Jumpu t-shirts, is it the best? No, it isn't. But for me, with no money, it's good enough. But will Coca-Cola hire me because I know a little bit of ChatGPT, a little bit of Midjourney, a little bit of Runway? No, it will not. So I don't have a career knowing a little bit about all the new tools. I will have a career if I know a lot about something very specific of one tool, I think. Either that, or maybe you become a great strategist, or maybe you become a conductor. Maybe you are an art director and you know what you want out of many tools. But again, at the beginning of your career, you will have to you have to have hard knowledge on something. And in my time, it was learn Photoshop, learn Illustrator, learn a few things to become an art director. And I think you will have to learn the tools really well. Not all of them, some of them.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Sounds great. Thanks, André, for being here with us.
It's a pleasure.
Where can people find you online and, of course, your t-shirt brand?
Yeah. So I have a website where I list kind of all of my work, and if you want to work with me, delighted to do so. My website is Matarazzo, which is my last name, .me. So Matarazzo @me. Or you can find my full name, André Matarazzo, on Instagram, and you can also send me a message there or whatever you like.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It was a pleasure to have you in our show.
Likewise, thank you so much, guys.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's free and helps us a lot. This way, it can help us also reach new listeners. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us at hello@humanaixp.com or connect with us on Instagram. Thanks for listening. See you next week.